Start the recording. Everybody stand by 1 second.
Okay. So,
Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach, held Tuesday, July 20th, 2021, at 7 p.m. We have a roll call. Councilmember Delury.
Present.
Councilmember Mandel.
Present.
Councilmember Treston.
present.
Vice President McGinnis.
Present.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Donna Gaden and Corporation Counsel Richard Barrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Councilwoman McGinnis, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second meeting of July. Hope everyone's summer is going good so far. And why don't we start with the city manager's report?
Thank you. I think that a statement will be read by Councilwoman McGinnis.
Thank you. This is from the I am reading this on behalf of the entire City Council and the City Manager. A partnership requires mutual respect. In recent months, Long Beach residents have been bombarded with messages about policing in the city of Long Beach. Here are just a few examples of what our residents have experienced. False and inflammatory declarations about the loss of public safety, racist and false assertions of over-policing in North Park, baseless personal attacks made against new Commissioner Ronald Walsh, ridiculous allegations of defunding of Long Beach police budgets. It would help to know the source of these messages for our friends and neighbors to put them into context, but most of them were issued anonymously. There is no legitimate basis for these attacks. Your city council has seen these false statements and wants you to know that the public safety is not at risk, police budgets are not being defunded, and changes that are being piloted by Commissioner Walsh are data-driven initiatives intended to efficiently improve the application of public safety resources. Regrettably, the Long Beach PBA attacked Commissioner Walsh during the police commissioner search process and from the moment he began his new position in February of this year. We believe these attacks are simply nonsense. Commissioner Walsh is making modern policing, not politics, a priority. He is opening up the lines of communication with our residents to truly put the needs of our neighbors in first position. He is committed to the ongoing training and support of our police department workforce. In short, the City Council and City Manager believe Commissioner Walsh is the right person to lead this department, and we are excited at the new perspectives and energy he brings to our community's public safety needs. In the end, we must all recognize that our community and its residents are engaged in a partnership with the members of the City of the Long Beach Police Department. And like all good relationships, it must be founded upon mutual respect, even when disagreements or challenges arise. We don't need any more chaotic and divisive reputational impacts to our community. Thus, we ask PBA leaders to restore goodwill by re-engaging with our city leaders and community in a positive and supportive manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, I just want to make note that I met with the committee that put the police reform together. We talked about the issues that have been in print and how they affect the city and how they affect the community. What they did tell me that there was a part 2 of their plan where each one of those members will go out to the community. So not only will the city hear what the community has to say, that they will also hear what the community has to say. And so I just wanted everybody to know that we're moving forward. We are listening to what's going on, and that all of the responses that I got since my email address was there, I would say when I look at them, about over 90% were positive, and the other 10% another 5% asked questions, and another 5% agreed with the statements that were made out there. So I want the public to know that we do take everything seriously, and I did go back to the community, which is the committee that put the plan together. On that note, our first speaker the second speaker under my report is Police Commissioner Walsh. And by the way, today is Police Commissioner Walsh's birthday, so we wish you a happy birthday.
I hope you don't mind if I don't stand in the execution box over here. Thank you, and thank you very much. A couple things I want to cover this evening. First is an issue that came up regarding fishing on the Ocean Beach Park. We had a couple of incidents over the last week or so where people were doing some things, some casting and some shark fishing, basically, on the beach. We felt that this was a very bad practice, actually, on the beach because it's a catch and release type of thing where people are catching sharks within a few yards of swimmers, bathers, surfers, and then re-releasing the shark after they're tagged back into the water. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a public safety problem. We are investigating fully right now with Corporation Counsel. We're doing some investigations. We're talking to Chief Paul Gillespie of the lifeguards, and we're trying to come up with a way so that the fishermen and the swimmers and everybody can enjoy the Ocean Beach Park at the same time. So we're working on it. We're not going to be prohibiting fishing per se the way it is. We're just going to make some modifications, and we're going to look into it a little bit more deeply, and within the next week or two we should have some resolution so that everybody remains happy. We have other information that this coming weekend there may be another beach party on our beach. I really don't want to give the date, I don't want to give the beach, and I don't want to give the time. But what I do want to do, and we're putting it up on our Facebook page, is tell everybody that's in our community if they could work with the police department. If you have kids, if you have young adults in your home, please discourage them from coming. It's not a lawful gathering, and we are making preparations to ensure that we have the proper law enforcement response in case something does happen, as well as we've notified our law enforcement partners in the area so that if something were to happen, we would be able to address it and keep the community safe. So we have plans. It does not, I want to be clear about this, it doesn't say sunset party. It doesn't reference that. It says beach party, and it's not the exact same flyer, but it is on social media, and some of our partners in the city some of our families and friends have forwarded that to us so that we have the information so that we can get it out to the public and say, hey, if you can help us out, keep people away from this. The last thing I want to talk about is coming up on August 3rd, and that's our National Night Out. We're looking to try and really have this to be a special night. It's going to be, the city-sponsored part of the event is going to be right out front on August 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m. We have a lot of tables out this coming year. We're going to have 21 tables out there. Long Beach Reach, Long Beach Latino Association, North Park Civic Association, North Park Crisis Prevention and Post-Intervention Team, Long Beach Aware, the library is going to be out there, the MLK Center's out there, Nassau County is going to be bringing down a K-9 unit, the Senior Center, the U.S. Coast Guard, 21 partners. We also have several sponsors this year. I know the City Council is being quite generous to give some money towards the event. Thank you very much. Q-Hit, a new vendor of us, is also going to be giving us some money, and as is Motorola. The COA, the Commanding Officers Association, as well as the PBA are giving money towards the event as well. And Long Beach Housing Authority has decided they're going to chip in some money and pay for some porta potties out there so people don't have to run around and look for a restroom. So all in all, it's really a great way to show support for the community and to build upon that community trust we're looking for. There's going to be free chicken, hamburgers, free hot dogs. We're going to have cotton candy, some popcorn, as well as the bouncy toys, a DJ, a Gaga pit, things to really make it a nice night out for the kids too. So we're encouraging everybody from the community to come out and help us. And if you are a community group that we have not reached out to, feel free to call the police department at 431-1800 if you would like to participate and be part of our National Night Out. After our event completes, the MLK Center, who's also going to be out there, is going to have some basketball games and their own form of a national night out at the MLK Center. So we're trying to really build a nice community kind of feel for the night. If anybody has any questions on that or anything that I've spoken about, we good?
It's important also to note that on the night of National Night Out, it is also a city council meeting. The council meeting will be held outside. It will be very brief in the, so that we can, also all of us can enjoy talking to the community, as well as enjoying the National Night Out.
My apologies, City Manager, you did ask me to mention that, so I'm sorry I left that off. All right, so, any questions from anybody?
Just the time again, when does it begin?
It starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it goes till 7 o'clock out on Kennedy Plaza, and immediately following is going to be over at the MLK Center. So they wanted to do their own. We asked them if they would work with us. They said yes, and they made their event following ours.
Commissioner, how are we promoting this? I mean, can we help promote?
So what we've done so far is we put it up on our Facebook page, going out on our Instagram page. It's on the city Facebook page and on the city website. We've printed out about 500 flyers for our camps over at the rec center, so all the kids are going to go home with it. You guys all have the flyer that we're putting out in store windows, and
Okay.
we also have another 200 flyers that our officers are handing out as needed. So we're trying to get the word out in the community. I actually received a couple of phone calls today. I got one from Christian Life Church. They were saying, hey, can we get some flyers? We'd like to let our congregation know. So we're letting the houses of worship know around town as well. I know Pastor Moses asked for them, and he's getting them. So we're really trying to get the community out in force, and it's great to see everybody come together for such a nice night.
Thank you.
Let's hope it's successful and it doesn't rain,
Right.
because that's a Tuesday. It should rain on Saturday.
That's right.
Not
Thank
on
you.
a revenue day. The next speaker is Commissioner Joe Brand to give us a beach update along with Chief Gillespie.
I'll make it brief. Perfect segue from Commissioner Walsh there about rain on Saturdays. We're into the teeth of the summer as far as the beach park is concerned. Thankfully, we had a tremendous preseason with season pass sales across the board. We're holding our own financially. Confident with another month and a half to go that the weather is going to get better and we will be busier. Had a good day this past Sunday. So it's starting to come around. The weekdays have been productive. The oppressive heat that we had is very good to us in terms of the only place to be is on the beach. So we're making up revenue there. Like I said, we're into the teeth of it now. Now it's a lot of the other stuff going on. The operations are up and running, so now it's kind of like switching to stuff like graffiti removal, moving ticket booths around and staffing around to meet changes in which areas are busy that weren't traditionally busy and accommodating crowds in areas that we normally didn't have crowds. Speaking on behalf of Superintendent Canner from Beach Maintenance, who's still recovering from a wicked bout of bronchitis. He just wanted me to provide an update that the dune areas and the walkways are next on their hit list as far as cleaning up. And then one other area that I wanted just to mention to the council, the city manager and I spoke briefly this afternoon and mentioned to the public that today myself and a playground specialist, site specialist, went and visited all of the playgrounds around town. There's a lot of good, some bad, but I'll prepare a report hopefully over the next few days and prioritize those items which need to be addressed immediately. Some of them were already addressed today, but then some of the stuff that we're going to have to put on front burners, back burners. Joe Fabrizio and I spoke briefly. He's well in tune with it and is aware of most of the issues, but prioritizing and finding ways to find funding to get some of the stuff done is going to be imperative. Other than that, the rec is up and running. It's the middle of summer, and we're busy. So, any questions?
The combination Long Island Railroad ticket beach pass, is that now, did they get that up and running? Is
Yeah,
in
that was
effect now?
effective July 1st.
July 1st,
And it's
okay.
been successful. And we're starting to have a fair amount of success with the electronic beach passes. I mean, the thought was that the daily pass was going to be the easier application. I mean, almost on a daily basis, and I can provide you guys with updates with that. But we had as many as, I think, 500 or 600 on Sunday, which, you know, and then that was a number probably before 1 p.m. I'll look and see what the final number was, but at least that's starting to pick up too. So, like I say, we're holding our own financially with the weather that we've had. Like I say, let's hope for a nice August.
You're up, Chief Gillespie.
I was asked to come tonight to talk about these handicapped wheelchairs that we have. Now, we've been using these on the patrol for probably about, I'd say, 30 years. These are great for people that cannot get to the water by just walking down there and jumping in the water. We transport from their wheelchair. We put the wheelchair side by side here, and then we pull the handle up so they can slide over. We put the handle back in, and we are ready to go. Let me get that back in there. And we're ready to go. Now, in order to get these, we have about, right now, about 7. We have 7. And to get these, to use these, what you do is you call Lifeguard Headquarters, 431-1810, and we will deliver this right to the ramp that you go down to the beach. If you're on Riverside or if you're on Long Beach Road, we will bring that ramp to the people that need them. And they really work great. We do have Moby mats on some of the beaches, which really makes them work even better. But we also recommend that you have someone with you so you could push these, because the duties we have at the beach, especially if we get a good crowd there, we can't just stand around and push the people down the beach. If there's no one there, of course, we will lend our assistance. We also have 2 other chairs that are, actually we have 4 because we partner up with the Scudin Surf, and these are long orange chairs that the handicapped person can actually lie in, and what we do then, and we push the people in the water so they can get in the water. These do not go in the water, but you can, of course, you can push them down to the shoreline and put your feet in the water. But these things are invaluable to the handicapped person, the people that cannot make it on their own down to the beach. And when, you know, it's amazing because the smiles you see on these people that can't make it, that may be their first time down to the water in years, until we bring this up, and it's just a great thing to see. So if anybody's interested, 431-1810, Lifeguard Headquarters, and we will deliver this to the area that you're coming down to the beach. Thank you.
Chief,
Is
Chief,
there
thank
any
you very
questions?
much. Last year you had a former lifeguard who was 100 years old, and I remember seeing that one of his many wishes was to jump in the water again, and the lifeguards, assisted him to get down to the beach, and
It was a great thing to see. The gentleman was here back, I think he lifeguarded from 1938 to like 1940 something, and he said, boy, I'd love to go down to the water and put my feet in. So put him in the chair, and we wheeled him all the way down to the water, and the smile on his face for the first time touching the water was incredible. And that's what we're all about. We're in to help people. And so the more people that get to use this, the better off the city is too. Any other questions?
And then Surf for All, was there a Surf for All today, Chief?
Excuse me?
Is there a Surf for All today where the Henry Viscardi School?
They had today they had, our city manager was down there watching it too. The Viscardi School it's a handicap school for children with severe handicaps. We used all our 7 chairs plus the 4 longer chairs to put the kids in the wheelchairs and put them in the water, which they don't get that opportunity to get by just walking there. So, again, these things are great, and I hope we get more response from the outside communities and the Long Beach community.
So again, that number is 431-1810?
1810, yes.
And thank you very much, Chief.
You're welcome.
Chief, is that one of the donated chairs from the
Oh,
family?
yes, this is, we had last year, it was actually in the spring, the Rosalind, this is in memory of Rosalind Interfield, and she's in Long Beach, and it says from 1930 to 220, sand in her shoes. So we did get 2 of these. These are pretty expensive, by the way. They cost anywhere, I think, from $5,000 to $7,000, depending on what type you get. So if anybody wants to donate some chairs to us, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, the last speaker that we have is Ina Resnick, our comptroller. She's going to introduce CMA, who's been with us, has been here with me for about the last year and a half, but they were here prior to me getting here. So Ina, if you'd like to come up and do the introductions, and they're going to discuss the credit update.
Good evening. As Donna said, I will briefly introduce CMA. We have 2 CMA representatives here who are going to, CMA is our municipal financial advisor. They're here to discuss Moody's action on July 8th. Moody's Rating Services downgraded cities' debt to Baa3, and they're here to talk about the downgrade, what caused it, and how we can get out of it.
Good evening. I'm Richard Tortora. I'm the president of Capital Markets Advisors, or CMA.
I've been told that we need to speak louder.
I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've never had a problem being loud. Okay. So, again, I'm Richard Tortora. I'm the president of Capital Markets Advisors, or CMA. My firm has served as the independent financial advisor to the city for a number of years. I'm required to make a statement before I speak in public, and that statement is simply this. CMA is an independent municipal advisor registered with both the United States Securities and Exchange Commission and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. Our professional staff is tested and licensed by the SEC and the MSRB. 11 of us hold municipal advisory licenses. I hold that license in addition to a principal's license. We're headquartered here on Long Island. We represent about 375 jurisdictions, almost exclusively throughout New York State. The reason for my being here this evening is, as Ina said earlier, we had a significant credit event occur 2 weeks ago when Moody's Investor Service downgraded the city's credit rating into the Baa3 category and put a negative outlook on it. If I could have someone just bring up the next slide, please. Thank you. So my intention is just to have a brief presentation, maybe 10 minutes, and then respond to any questions you might have. So first and foremost, let's just talk about what a credit rating is. A credit rating is an independent assessment by a credit rating agency, a nationally recognized credit rating agency, of a jurisdiction's ability and willingness to pay its debt in full and on time. There are three major credit rating agencies. The action taken 2 weeks ago was by Moody's Investor Service, which is the preeminent credit rating agency in the United States, and certainly in New York State. They rate more local credits, local being county on down, counties, cities, towns, villages, school districts, fire districts, etc. They rate more of those in New York State than any of the other three rating agencies. Standard & Poor's is a second rating agency. Fitch Ratings is a third. And there's another player that really doesn't rate local credits much. That's Kroll Ratings. Next slide, please. This next slide is important in that it shows the credit rating scale that Moody's uses to rate credits. If you're doing everything right and you have strong economics and demographics, and that means you have a strong tax base, low unemployment, significant large taxpayers, significant large employers, basically everything is going right on your economy. You have strong financial performance. Your budget to actual performance is good. You have fund balances. You run operating surpluses. You have a strong management team, a team that is consistent, has ongoing relationships with the jurisdiction, is well-trained, is experienced, etc. And you have manageable debt. You have debt that's been outstanding, typically at fixed interest rates, so it's not questionable what the principal and interest payments will be. You funded your capital projects, you funded your cash flow needs, and the debt is manageable. The median credit rating for municipalities in New York is AA3, AA3. So if you look at that table, that bar, if you will, on the left, you'll see that the best rating you can get is AAA. And those are pretty few and far between. Our firm has the distinction of representing most of the AAA credits in New York State. In this neck of the woods, a AAA credit would be on Long Island, town of East Hampton, town of Brookhaven, some school districts, maybe Garden City, maybe Manhasset, Kings Point Village. You know, there are certainly some on Long Island because it's a wealthy community. If you look where the city is, so from AAA, you go into the AA category with modifiers 1, 2, and 3. The single A category, again, with modifiers 1, 2, and 3, with 1 being the strongest. Once you drop below the A3 category, many financial institutions have their own investment policies that don't allow them to bid and hold paper that's rated below that A category. So your potential universe of investors becomes a bit limited. There's still plenty of market access in the BAA category, but just not as many players as there are if you're rated above the, the A category and above. As you can see, the city is currently rated, following this downgrade, a BAA3, and it has a negative outlook, and that's important. BAA3 means you're right at the threshold. You're still investment grade, but you're right at the threshold. But that negative outlook is what's a concern. What the negative outlook says is that Moody's is of the opinion that things are somewhat unsettled in the city. They're not quite sure what direction you're going in, but they think things could go badly here in the foreseeable future, hence the negative outlook. The reason why that's important, if I'm an investor and I buy bonds issued by the city of Long Beach, and those bonds may be coming due over the next 10, 20 years, with a negative outlook on a BAA3 credit, there's a very good likelihood that those bonds will become sub-investment grade while I'm holding them. And that's a dangerous thing if I'm a bondholder, because if I wanted to sell those bonds before their maturity, I'd have a bit of a challenge selling them. They wouldn't sell as well and as easily if they had remained in the investment grade category. A couple more slides. The situation that the city finds itself in is not new. There was a very significant downgrade to the city in 2011. I don't believe my firm was working with the city 10 years ago, but there was a 5-notch downgrade, which is a very significant downgrade. But that's probably as much a reflection on the rating agency as it is on you, because no one should get downgraded 5 notches. You should get downgraded a notch. Then maybe your outlook will change to negative, and then maybe you get downgraded again. There shouldn't be a precipitous drop. That means they kept their eye off the ball. They weren't watching closely enough, and they just shouldn't drop you that much. That's almost unheard of, a drop like that. Pardon me?
The city or the Moody's dropped their eye?
No, Moody's dropped it because they should be looking at credit until the fiscal crisis. in 7 or 8, there was a Moody's didn't have a policy to monitor credits on an annual basis. And one of their execs made a statement in public saying, we have some credits we haven't looked at since we rated them 5 years ago, 7 years ago, which was not a good thing because investors want to think that they can rely on the ratings from Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. There was a bit of a sea change that occurred after the near financial collapse in that a lot of analysts at Moody's, Fitch, S&P got stolen away by the big investors, by the Rochesters and the Oppenheimers and the Invescos. They said, we want to have more control over what these credit ratings look like, so we're going to bring these rating analysts in-house so we have a more accurate assessment. So while the credit rating is still very important, it maybe isn't as important as it was before this happened because now the investors have their own analysts. They always had their own analysts, but now they have more of them. They do more due diligence.
Mr. Totora?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make a point here, but that back in 2011, some of us were here then, and some of us looked at the balance sheet and already knew this was a problem back then.
I'm sure.
Some council members actually spoke out about it. I was not on the council at this time, but the audits which were published all were clear. The clips in the balance sheet, the balance sheet was going in the wrong direction. So this is not a surprise, and and the problem starts here.
Understood.
Thank you.
Understood. You're welcome. So again, I don't need to go through all these steps, but just suffice to say, the big downgrade occurred in 2011. Then you started making progress with an upgrade in 15, another upgrade in 16, which is what we'd expect. You're either going up, you're going down, you're staying where you are. But then in 2019, you started to move in the other direction again. You were downgraded to a Baa2 with a negative outlook, and then a couple of weeks ago, you were downgraded to a Baa3. I can have you, next slide, please. Just a little bit of an update on what the rating report said that Moody's issued. So Moody's issued this report on July 8th and cited the following. The credit strengths of the city, it has a large and growing tax base, and you have oversight by the New York State Comptroller. That's important because you have financial experts on the state level overlooking your ongoing finances. The credit challenges, the 22 budget includes appropriated revenues, which means you're spending down fund balance, spending down reserves, and of course, the big challenge, the Haberman judgment that came out, I guess it's been a couple of months now. We always look to what can make the rating go up, what can make the rating go down, because ratings are dynamic, and you can influence them. I mean, no one can influence them more than the folks sitting before me. So what could make your rating go up? If indeed you can finalize the settlement with Haberman, that doesn't crush the city financially. If you had a plan to fund outstanding liabilities with recurring revenues or a reduction in elimination of the settlement, if you could basically balance your budget, adopt a budget that is truly balanced without over-reliance on what they call one-shots. We know you're getting some ARP money, and it's not insignificant, but it's not going to save the day by any stretch. But you are getting some ARP money. Factors that could lead to a downgrade. What could push you into that, we don't like to call general obligation bonds, junk bonds, but what can push you into the sub-investment grade? If there's an unfavorable outcome in the Haberman judgment, so if they say, we want our $131 million, we want our interest that's accruing at a rate of about $1 million a month, and we're not giving up anything, that would be a problem. If there's further governance weaknesses. Now, this is important. This is the governance team before you. I happen to know that your city manager has a contract that isn't going, isn't into the future. That could be problematic. If I'm a rating agency and I'm not sure who's running the city, who the manager is, that would be a concern of mine. So the key people, the city manager, the president of the council, the city attorney, the CFO, those are people that investors look to because you're the folks that are making decisions and running the city. If indeed there's continued increases in long-term liabilities, if there are weakening reserves and liquidity, all jurisdictions should have some cash reserves, rainy day funds, if you will, stabilization funds. To the extent you start spending those down and you don't have flexibility, that becomes even more of a problem for a credit that's a Baa3 because your market access is a bit limited, much more so than if you were in the A category or the AA category. Finally, the last slide. I always like this last slide because people say, well, what's the big deal? Why do credit ratings matter so much? And this is a clear illustration of what money costs you based on your credit rating. So we subscribe to a service called MMD, Municipal Market Data. Every business day of the year at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they circulate interest rate scales based on what occurred in the market across the country that day. And they give us interest rate scales based on credit quality. So we have a AAA scale, a scale that is for debt that was sold with bond insurance, a AA scale, a single A scale, a BAA scale. Interest rates now are extraordinarily low. I never thought they'd be this low in my lifetime, and we just haven't seen this before. We sold, we're in the market sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, sometimes 10, 12 times a week. Interest rates are just extraordinary. If you were going to be selling, say, a 10-year bond for the city, you might expect with your BAA rating, maybe you would sell that bond with the 10-year maturity with a yield to investors of around 1.44%. Extraordinarily low. I remember when a BAA credit would sell a 10-year bond at 5%. So rates are very, very low. So if indeed you have to fund this judgment, at least you're funding it in a very low interest environment. So that's maybe the silver lining. But again, if you go to that 2031 line, so what that represents is what is a bond going to pay to an investor? What kind of yield is that bond going to pay to an investor if it's AAA? So if I'm buying a AAA rated bond that matures 10 years from now, I might expect to get 81 basis points. When we talk about interest rates, we talk about basis points. There's 100 basis points in 1%. So 81 basis points is just over 0.75% interest on that yield, on that bond for an investor. If it's an insured issue, it'll yield about 1%. If it's an issue rated AA, it'll yield 94 basis points. Single A, 106, and BAA just under 1.5%. We don't have a scale for, below the BAA level because it's a bit of a wild card. So very simply, that's an overview of what credit ratings are, how they work, where you are, why it's a concern, and why I'm here today, certainly to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Mr. I have a question. If you had to convert this complex formula numbers to somebody's personal credit, so 800 on a FICO score would be excellent credit. Therefore, if you want to get a car loan, a mortgage, you'd have lenders looking to lend, and therefore your rate would probably be very competitive. If you had to convert this scenario, how would you do it just to simplify a complex?
I don't know FICO scores enough to say what's. I know, of course, if you're, 800, you're a superstar. People want to loan you money. The old cliche, banks are always willing to loan money to people who don't need it. So if you're a real strong credit rating, it's probably because you're doing everything right and you probably have some money stashed away. You have reserves. In your instance, you would not find, if you were an individual with a BAA3 with a negative outlook, people would not be beating down a path to your door to loan you money. You'd probably be very hard-pressed to find lenders, and when you do, they would charge a premium because you'd be a risk. Is this individual with this low FICO score, are they going to pay back in full and on time? It's probably questionable. It's probably someone who maybe has a history of unemployment or a history of low earnings, a history of maybe not paying their debt on time, things like that. Maybe they don't have assets that they can use to collateralize a loan. That's kind of the analogy.
Stability and continuity were 2 words that you mentioned.
Certainly.
And that is very important to have a management team that's stable and continues.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's one of the key factors of your rating. We mentioned on one of the slides there's 4 components, with management being one of the key 4, and you allocate about 20% of a rating just to management alone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chatora, in terms of the lower rating, is there a material impact to our debt service numbers that we budgeted for this year, and if so, how much?
Good question, sure. So if you think about it, the lower rating only impacts future debt offerings.
Okay.
Because when you issue your debt, you issue it at a fixed rate of interest. So anything that's been outstanding is at a fixed rate of interest. The rating goes down, the rating goes up. You're still paying that fixed rate of interest to investors. But when you go in the market and issue new debt, that rating is going to impact your cost of capital on that new debt. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
For us non-financial people, to start climbing back up the ladder, I mean, is the first step we would go from a negative to, let's say, a neutral rating?
Correct. Stable.
Or stable,
Mhm.
and then
Positive.
positive, and then
And then up
potentially
into
a
the
bump
next
up.
category, correct. And that takes time because they don't change their ratings overnight. So what this rating is a long-term underlying rating in which the rating agency analysts looked at what the city has done maybe over the last 3 to 5 years. They look at your audits, they look at your budgets, they look at your fund balance, et cetera. They look at where you've been, they look at where you are right now, and then they project where they think you're going to be in the next maybe 3 to 5 years. And then they issue this long-term underlying credit rating. So it will take time to build that rating back up. But you've been there before. You've been in the BAA1 category, which is significantly better. Moving up within that BAA category is very significant because at a BAA1, there's a likelihood that while I'm holding the debt, maybe it'll go into the A category and it'll be that much more valuable.
But wasn't the saving grace that to get us out the last time was in fact the infusion of funds related to Superstorm Sandy?
I'm sure it helped, but that in and of itself wouldn't save you. The Haberman judgment, because it was so significant, that in and of itself was enough to knock down the credit rating. When it's interesting, so the analyst on this is a gentleman at Moody's who we know very well. We've been interacting with him in years. He lives in Garden City. He's a big fan of the city, and he watches the city very closely. And when the Haberman judgment first came out, I gave him a call. I spoke to Ms. Gaydon, and I gave this analyst a call, and I said, okay, so you heard what happened in Long Beach. What do you think? And he said, they're already a BAA2. How much more are we going to do? Let's see how it plays out. So they're watching very closely this Haberman issue. If indeed it's settled, and it's settled at terms that the city can financially manage, I mean, is it enough to take out the negative outlook? Perhaps, because it's so significant. If you can work out an arrangement that makes that's palatable for the city, going forward, that would be a big step in the right direction.
And Moody's is it not true that they do evaluate on a quarterly basis in general, but issues reports 1 to 2 times per year?
So what happens is they've made a commitment to review a credit. They call it market surveillance at least once a year.
Right.
Credits that are particularly dynamic, where there's a lot going on, they might review more often than that. But the city, in terms of, it's not so we represent Suffolk County. Mm-hmm. Suffolk County issues, $600-700 million in debt a year. So they're watching Suffolk very carefully. Mm-hmm. Not to say they're not watching Long Beach carefully, but it'll take some time for them to move this credit around. But they are watching you. They have a clipping service.
Right.
So they're reading stories that show up in the local newspaper. I read Newsday, of course, every day. I live in Manhasset, and I'm always watching what's going on in the jurisdictions that I work with.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to say that you all have worked with the city, and we created the Debt Dash software that is actually for the credit agencies. And so if you go on our website, you will see a link to Debt Dash, and then anytime a credit rating agency or any investor has a question, they go to that particular site to answer any of their questions.
And that's very helpful because they want access to information. And so all you're really required to do is, be pursuant to this SEC rule, Securities and Exchange Commission Rule 15C212, you have an ongoing obligation to provide disclosure to your investors. But that obligation only requires you to file an audited financial statement, typically within 6 months after your fiscal year. and an annual update on some of the key data that's in your offering documents. So we do that. But with this dash, we can put in a site that's readily accessible by investors and the public other information that might be of value, interim things that happen. A new employer comes into town. There's a new housing development that's going on. An existing employer increases his staff by things like that. Good news and bad news if we need to, because investors don't like to be surprised. So the more proactive we can be and make access to information available, that's going to help you.
So this isn't going away?
Not right now. I'd like to think we can help you develop a plan to make it improve over time, but this is a rating you're going to be with, I would think, certainly for the balance of this, I shouldn't say certainly, very likely for the balance of this year at a minimum.
And there's no magic solution?
There is not.
No panacea?
There almost never is,
Nothing, right? But hard work and hard choices.
Yeah, exactly that. I'll just tell you a quick anecdote. One of our credits, one of the jurisdictions that I've worked with for a long time, is a county in southern New York. And they had all the problems you can imagine. They had their largest taxpayer file bankruptcy. Because they were a county, they had to make all the underlying jurisdictions in town, in the county whole. So they had to issue all these tax anticipation notes, and they were just in real trouble. And then when they were coming out of it, the pandemic hit, the fiscal crisis hit. Well, long story short, they're moving in the extreme opposite direction of you. Last week, they got double upgrades, two-step upgrades by both Moody's and S&P. And they're probably going to be the poster child for what you have to do to fix things. And they made a lot of tough decisions. They raised fee income. They closed a hospital, which was a drain, big drain year after year after year. They raised, the taxes and an energy tax. They made tough choices, and they had the kind of intestinal fortitude to do what they had to do. And some of it was painful, certainly, but in the long run, they're great. As a matter of fact, they sold debt today, and they got the lowest interest rates probably that they've ever seen. They sold a 20-year tax anticipation note at 13 basis points, or like 1/10%. Magnificent. Real success story. So it's doable.
So sometimes raising rates is looked at favorably by the lending market, that you're managing your finances well, because you're matching your revenue
Right.
with your expenses.
Yeah, I mean, so, raising rates like tax rates,
Yeah.
it's kind of know your audience. So if I'm an investor or if I'm a credit rating agency, I want to see as much revenue coming in as possible. And real property tax revenue is the most solid revenue stream because people pay their real property taxes. So yeah, that would be a very credit positive event. And that goes to, I started the conversation by saying the two components of a credit rating, your ability to pay, and your ability to pay is really based on your wealth levels here, the value of real property that's subject to taxation. That's your ability to pay, levy taxes against them. Your willingness is things like, do you raise rates when you have to? Do you impose new fees when you have to generate more revenues to support the day-to-day operations of government?
I know this council going through the budget, did raise rates.
And you get credit for that.
And
that's probably one of the things that kept the rating from moving. Like you showed your willingness to make tough decisions and raise rates when you needed to. That would certainly be deemed a credit positive event.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The last thing I want to say about that is that as we are working on the restructuring, CMA is working with us because we are working on a multi-year plan. I think that once we have that multi-year plan passed, we will put it on our debt dash, and then we will start inviting Moody's. We will make sure that they see that we're moving in a positive direction.
And multi-year plans are so favorably received because they want to know you have even if it's not the greatest plan, they want to know you have a plan to get out of this. They want to know what your strategy is. They're going to say, how realistic are their assumptions? How realistic are their projections? And the more credibility that the plan has with the analysts, the more value it has.
Mr. Tortora, technically, we are supposed to already be submitting a multi-year plan because we are a fiscally stressed municipality. So we haven't been doing that for the past few years. So it just shows you that the investments that we're making in the talent of our staff is really helping us even comply with things that we have not been complying with, but we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for noting that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And
Thank
that-
you so much.
And that ends my report for tonight.
All right, thank you. Why don't we move on to our first public hearing?
Our first public hearing this evening is for resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 136 East Park Avenue, street floor, for a spa studio.
Hi.
All right, so just for reference of the people in the room, this is the old shoe repair shop that's on East Park Avenue. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Sure.
I'm sorry, can you give your name?
Sure. My name is better.
Thank you.
Orit Shemtov. A little bit about my business. I started a skin spa about 2 years ago when I first came to Long Beach. And I pretty much specialize in skincare, aesthetic services, and permanent makeup. And my business had grown over time. And now it's kind of grown out of my room where I am now, and found this beautiful location, and we're very excited.
Nice problem to have. So I guess I'm looking at the paperwork here. So you expect between 1 and 3 employees?
Yeah, about 2 employees.
Okay. And what are going to be your days of operation and your hours?
So probably the hours will be 9 to 7 or 10 to 7. It's not 100% yet. Right now I work 9 to 3. But we're going to definitely extend it once we have, like a store front. And the days of operation will probably be Sunday to Friday. Probably going to be closed Saturday.
Okay. Are there any questions from any of the council members? All right. We got any questions from the public? All right. Seeing none, why don't we close that hearing and why don't we vote on it now?
This is calendar item number 2, resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 136 East Park Avenue, street floor, for a spa studio. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes, good luck.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes, good luck.
Thank you.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes. Welcome to your new storefront.
Thank you so much. Looking forward.
Thank you.
Our next public hearing is for a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 28 East Park Avenue, street floor, for urgent care.
All
Hi,
right. Good evening.
My name is Seamus Wheeler. I'm the general manager of Silver Star Urgent Care. This is Dr. Dinesh Verma. He's the medical director of Silver Star Urgent Care. To give you a brief background on our business, we have 4 locations in Queens and Nassau County. This is going to be our 5th location here in Long Beach.
Okay. All right. So this is the old, again, for people in the audience that are just wondering where it is, this is the old Century 21 Real Estate Agency next to Corazon de Cuba. So just giving them for reference so they know where we're talking about. Okay, so what kind of, how many employees do you anticipate having?
Yeah, about 10 employees.
Okay. At a time, like working at a time, or that'll
No,
be?
in total. So
Okay.
we're open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, in total.
All right. And then how many customers would you normally accommodate during, at a time?
At a time or within a day?
Well, at a time, in other words.
Yeah, 3 to 4 at a time.
Okay. All right. I mean, urgent care is pretty straightforward, so.
Are you open 24 hours or?
No, we're our typical business hours now are 10 to 7 on
That's
weekdays
true.
and 10 to 5 on the weekends.
All right. Any other questions from the council? All right. Seeing none, any questions from the public? All right, so let's close that hearing, and why don't we vote on that as well?
Okay, voting on calendar item number 3, resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 28 East Park Avenue, street floor for urgent care. Who would introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Trustin.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Thank you for picking Long Beach, and yes.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
I don't know if that sounds bad. Good
I
luck,
don't
because
know.
now we're wishing people get sick. I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Okay.
So,
Our final public hearing tonight is for an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding Council of the Arts.
Yeah, Patty wants to say it.
So this is a straightforward amendment. We're basically changing the number of members for the Arts Council from 9 to 11. Ms. Bourne is here to give a little background really quick on how we got there.
Hello, good evening. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Patty Bourne from the Economic Development Department with George Trepp, who is the long-term treasurer of the Arts Council and one of the exemplary board members. The board is composed currently of 9 members. They are very dedicated. When we could meet in person, we met on a regular basis. Now we've had Zoom calls at least 2, 3, 4 times a month, even on Friday nights. That's kind of a first. They really want to see the arts flourish, support current artists, expand programs. They're working with the police department for National Night Out to provide resources and volunteers. And it's a pleasure to work with them, and they really care. It's a great board, and we love the fact that there'll be 2 more hardworking members when the board gets expanded.
So my name is George Trepp, Kirkwood Street in Long Beach. Currently the treasurer. Before that I was the vice president and almost the president, but I turned it down. We'd like to express our appreciation to the council, to the city manager, and to the city staff that have helped us in the past and will continue to help us, we hope, make the arts flourish in Long Beach. And we also look forward to the expansion of the council because we need all the help we can get. So more bodies, more help, more volunteers. We are currently working on a big project, don't laugh, called No Pause, which is in the north of Park neighborhood. It's an art project, and we have a National Endowment for the Arts grant to do that, and we're working along with that grant with a New York State Council on the Arts grant. So we are working to get grants, and we're trying to now expand a little bit to see if we can do development work. We realize there's a lot of development in Long Beach, a lot of not-for-profit organizations, a lot of NGOs doing fundraising, but we want to join the game also. So we're in the game for grants, we're in the game for development, but we also enjoy the support of the council on a budgetary basis. So thank you very much for your help.
okay, any questions from the council? I'm just going to, for the clerk, and I just told our Corp counsel as well, when I was reviewing the code for this section to look at the changes we were making. So we're modifying here section 2-251. Section 2-252 and section 2-254 are identical in there. So somebody put the same paragraph in twice. I don't know if we would do that as an amendment here, or that's a separate thing to notice and fix. Okay. So just pointed out that the same thing is in there twice, and it's the identical paragraph. So, okay. Seeing no questions from the council, any from the public? All right, seeing none, let's close that hearing and take a vote.
You want to vote on this now or at the...
May as well vote on it.
Okay,
now.
so calendar item number 4 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding Council on the Arts. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Enthusiastically, yes.
And President Bendo.
Thanks for all your work, and yes.
Believe you have a motion at this time?
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to make a motion, we need to go into executive session for a little bit. So I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
Do I have a second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, we're in executive session. For the folks watching at home, the stream is going to end, and a new stream will be put up in the next 5 minutes. That'll say City Council Meeting 7/20/21, Part 2.
Okay, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Give me 1 second.